Today we're going to be creating a drawing with pumpkins. And so we're going to be using the skills we've been practicing, such as creating a value scale, which shows how light or dark a color is. And also we're going to try to put some of that shading into our drawing so we can make our pumpkins look three-dimensional. We want to give the illusion that they have form and that they're round. And to do that, we're going to be adding some light values. So we might have a light orange or a yellow orange for part of our pumpkin. And then also we're going to be adding those darker values where they might show where the part of the pumpkin goes in for the sections, and possibly some shadows down here at the bottom. To start our drawing, we're going to be using really light pressure to create circles as a guide to where our pumpkins will go. Now, when we made our value scale, we made sure that when we did a light value, we had really light pressure. We're going to try to use that skill today as we're drawing our guidelines, because we will be erasing parts of the lines as we go. When you create your pumpkins, I'm going to have you choose the composition that you want. So if you would like to have a larger pumpkin on this side and then a medium-sized pumpkin here, that's going to be up to you, but you can also follow along with me. The first thing we're going to do is decide where we're going to put our pumpkin, our larger pumpkin, on our paper. So we can decide to put it on the left side, the right side. It's going to be up to you. And I have a little trick to help you draw a circle. So what I like to do to draw a circle is I have my hand kind of hover above the paper, and I figure out how big I want it to be, and I kind of just swirl it around until I decide, okay, I want my pumpkin to be about this size, and I do it a couple times, and then I slowly put my pencil on the paper, and I keep my hand going in that motion, and then I magically draw a circle. Notice how it's super light, so if I were to erase part of it, it would be very easy to do, okay? So once you have your one pumpkin drawn, we're going to decide where to place the second pumpkin. In fact, I might even make this pumpkin a little bit bigger. Remember, this is just the tip. You can draw a circle however it's easiest for you. All right, so now I'm going to place my second pumpkin on this side, I think. And I need my pumpkins to overlap, which means that there's going to be one pumpkin that looks like it's in front of the other pumpkin. So they need to be touching each other. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hover my pencil around and then gently put it down. Okay, so now I have two pumpkins, two circles that will represent my pumpkins. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the pumpkin that's behind this one so I can kind of focus on this pumpkin alone. And now the next thing I'm going to do is decide where my stems are going to be. Maybe at the top right here, I'm just going to draw a curved line to show where it will go. Maybe this one's more towards the middle. It's kind of turned towards me a little bit like that. So decide where your stems will go. And then honestly, there are all kinds of different shapes. You can create your stem however you want it. Now the next part is to create these different segments that come down to show the different parts of the pumpkin. So I'm just going to start up here with my first pumpkin. And these lines need to be curved, and I'm going to draw it straight down to the bottom line. If you draw them straight, they won't give the illusion that the pumpkin is round, so they have to be curved. And then I'm going to continue to draw these curved lines to show the different segments out. Now this line's going to stop right here where the pumpkin would go, and you can imagine maybe it would come down. You might not even be able to see this part. It might end right here, so I don't think I'm going to add any more there. All right, now for the parts that go in the back, they're going to go in this direction like this. So I'm going to draw a curved line out. This is kind of the edge of my pumpkin right here. And then maybe there's another one here, and then maybe even one like that. I'm going to repeat the same process down on this pumpkin, making sure my lines are curved. Now that we have our basic lines drawn where the pumpkin is divided into parts, we're going to change this sphere and make it more of a pumpkin shape. So if you look at a pumpkin, they do have these little lumps and curves and bends to them, and pumpkins are really unique. They're not perfect. what we're gonna do is, since we drew these lines really light, we're gonna go in and just change them up a little bit. So I'm gonna change the bottom of this part of the pumpkin to be more curved and round. Right, the tops of my pumpkin are also gonna get little curves. You can decide to make them a little more lumpy. And then I'm going to go back and erase those soft guidelines that we originally started with. Down here, I'm going to make sure the same thing happens. I'm going to curve the bottom parts of my pumpkin and some of the tops. If you wanted to draw maybe a third pumpkin, maybe there could be one coming out from behind here, or maybe a smaller one down in this section, that is up to you. Now we're going to be moving on to the shading, and what we're going to be using is either crayons or colored pencils, no markers. So what I would do is find some different shades of orange, yellow, and then brown. My brown's broken, but that's okay. So find oranges, yellows, and brown. The first step we're going to do is create a brown outline around all of our pencil lines. This is going to help us make our darker values a little bit later. So go ahead and trace everything in a brown. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is find an orange, and it can really be any orange that you want. I'm going to try to do maybe this darker, I think this is a red orange for this pumpkin, and maybe I'll use a different shade of orange for this one, just to give them some variety, make them look a little different. What we're going to do is take that orange, and you're going to color right on top of the brown, and you're also going to make kind of like a fence that goes around each section. And this is going to help us create our darker values. They're going to make it look like it has shadows and some depth. Also, down here at the very bottom, I am going to color just a little bit extra, just on the bottoms of each section. The next step is I'm going to choose a kind of more of a golden or a dandelion yellow, some kind of pretty yellow, and I'm going to fill in each section of the pumpkin. And this is going to help create those lighter values to make it look like this part has a highlight or it's a little bit more round. Okay, now our next step is to start shading and blending in that orange with the yellow. So I'm going to make that lighter value. So take the same color you used for each pumpkin, and what you're going to do is just go ahead and gently color on top of the yellow until they start to blend together to make a new color. And when you're coloring, it's really important that you follow the form that you're trying to create. So I wouldn't be coloring back and forth like this because it wouldn't help the pumpkin look round. So when you're coloring, follow the lines here. Down here, it looks like it's not blending very well, so I'm actually just gonna take my yellow and just go on top a little bit to kind of help smooth that out just a little bit. Okay, our last final step is to create our stems. You could color them green, brown. You could try to add a little bit of highlight to them, where maybe you color one side a little bit darker and then a little lighter on the other side. Or use a different shade of brown to show the lighter. And then if you need to go back and darken up any of the lines for each segment, or maybe you wanted to add a little extra shading down here at the bottom of each part of the pumpkin to show that it has a darker shadow, you could also add in some brown down here. Okay, from here, we can add a horizon line, which I will show you how to do with pencil first. A horizon line shows you where the land stops and the sky starts. So to draw a horizon line, we would not make one down here because then it would look like this pumpkin above it is floating. So we want to make sure we put it at least halfway up on our back pumpkin to show that both pumpkins are on the ground. And I would just draw a straight line across, pretend it continues on, and then draw it over here. Now we could add a background to it, add more pumpkins to it. When you do your coloring, you could even add a shadow, a cast shadow that would be underneath your pumpkin. If you don't want to draw your background, you could stick around and watch the next part of the video that will show you how to make a background using crayons, watercolor, and some real leaves in your backyard, and that could be an option for you as well. When you're finished with your artwork, don't forget to take a picture of your work, click the blue Submit Assignment button, and send it to me so I can see your work too. See you next time, friends.